It's finally happening, Jess Nevarez, 4th and 12, the UFL podcast, and we've been pumped about this for a while.
Jeff, we're here. It's happening. Like, this is not a dream, right? A dream duo here, but this podcast, it's actually happening. We're here.
Football fever in the spring. It's a real thing. We're curing it with the United Football League. Year 2, of course, hubbed here in Dallas, Arlington, Texas.
Yep.
And we are so excited, I think, to discover some of the amazing stories. We were out at the Renegades home opener this past week, and I think we had a ball taking in the whole experience.
Well, and Jeff, I want people to know about this podcast, that we don't want to be the regular podcast that you can hear and get the information from everyone else. Jeff and I are going to promise you guys right now, we're going to do some deep diving, try to get you some good stories that you may or may not know about the UFL.
Because we're going for it. That's the essence of 4th and 12.
We are taking the 4th and 12, correct.
4th and 12. No onside kick. We are going for it in the fourth quarter with all the big guests, all the big names.
Yep.
And for those who don't know our names, which is probably a lot of our viewers here on the pod,
welcome.
Tell people a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm Jess Nevarez. So glad to have you guys here. And Jeff, thank you for having me on this podcast. Jeff called me one day as I was driving and asked me to be on the pod. Yeah, I am here in Dallas from Las Cruces, New Mexico. I started podcasting back in 2020 because I was bored about the Dallas Cowboys. And that led me to being on the only all-girls podcast, the Dallas Cowboys, Girls Talk, Boys Talk, going on my 4th season. Jeff, can you believe that?
I love it. And you know I love Girls Talk, Boys Talk.
I do, but I love to hear about you.
And that's why I've been, just kind of jealously waiting for my time to team up with you for a podcast. And Jess Nevarez is not only a network friend, but a true friend. And unfortunately, I'm remiss I don't have my friendship bracelet that you made for me. A true Swiftie, as our podcast fans will learn.
Jeff-Kolb, what about you? I feel like people need to know about you too. It's
work
not just my show.
Here in Dallas at Fox 4, and it's been awesome getting to cover just an amazing sports city here, including the Dallas Cowboys.
Yep.
But now the United Football League is just this growing thing that is so much fun to get involved with, and there are some Dallas Cowboys legends at the heart of it.
There are, and you know what? We have one joining us right now.
Joining the 4th and 12 podcast now, we are really excited for this, Jess, president of football operations for the UFL. He has been on Fox Sports calling NFL games for 24 seasons, going on 25. And of course, the 3-time Super Bowl champion for the Dallas Cowboys, Daryl Johnston. DJ, great to have you with us.
Yeah, great to be here.
AKA Moose, if we didn't hear that already.
Moose. So we've got this name up here, and DJ, I'm not sure that everybody understands what is 4th and 12. It's obviously inspired by this new rule.
Yeah.
Bring us inside how this rule came to be for this season.
Yeah, it's one of the really cool things that's come out of the spring football platform. And in the UFL, we went back to the dynamic kickoff this year. And we actually, and everybody will ask, we got rid of the onside kick. And they said, well, why would you do that? And I said, well, number one, we're doing the dynamic kickoff and you got to declare and everything. So I always like the strategic component of the surprise onside. But when you just do a traditional onside kick at the end of the game trying to get another possession, it's pretty hard to convert that. So the concept is trying to match what the old conversion rates were when you did the regular onside kick back in the day where you overloaded a side and had runners. And what would a 4th down distance be that would be similar to that? And instead of doing the onside kick, because it is a dangerous play, let's do a scrimmage play. So we'll do a 4th down and what's that yardage? And it comes out to be 12 yards. So the 4th and 12 is our version of what an onside kick would be in the UFL. And so it's a scrimmage play, and if you convert that, you just continue on that drive. So we had one last week in
Houston.
Week 1.
Yeah. It worked, right?
Yeah. Had a penalty on it. Yeah.
And so where did that idea come from, right? So say you're sitting at this table, who kind of came up with that idea first in all of this? And at first when you heard it, was it something that was a little off-putting, or did you instantly say, yeah, that's entertaining, that'll be good and safer for the players?
Yeah, I think the big thing of player health and safety is the driver in that. And, for a long time, I was one of the guys on the front line on the onside kick recovery team. So I was kind of in that area where the ball is coming to try and convert it. And being in the front line, you're one of the blockers. You're not one of the guys who's trying to field it. Now, sometimes they would kick it low and you would field it and get blown up because you didn't have anybody to protect you. But our job was to kind of let it pass, gauge the distance, and then protect the guys behind us. So I was all for the 4th and 12 because I understood how challenging that spot was.
Yeah.
And I just think it's a better play. I think there's a little bit more excitement there. I'm trying to talk some of our officials into, since we don't have the surprise onside kick anymore, couldn't we do the 4th and 12 at any time instead of just being in the fourth quarter when we're behind? Could we feel like we've got momentum going in the second quarter? And hey, listen, they can't stop us right now.
Well,
hey, we're going to roll out the 4th and 12 right now.
You're the president. I mean, anything you say goes, right, Daryl?
Put down.
Yeah.
But you really said it, right? This is all about excitement. When you're thinking about these rules, you want to create more entertainment as you're trying to grow this league. And we've seen the NFL adopt, for example, a different kickoff model that originated in spring football. What has it meant? I know you've used the term testing ground, and you're proud of that. What has it meant to see the NFL take some of these rules and, I guess, bring us inside a little bit more of that relationship?
I think more than a testing ground, a proving ground, because I think a lot of the ideas that are projected or proposed are not just kind of throwing a dart at the wall. There's a lot of thought that goes into them. And then if they get to that point, we consider it more of a proving ground. We think that this is a great idea. And the great one we're doing this year is our MindFly camera, which is a camera that's worn on a vest, and it sits kind of right at the top of the shoulder pads. And they've never done it in American football. You'll have seen some of the footage last year in the UFL worn by some of our officials. It's been in soccer, it's been in basketball, baseball umpire. But it's never been worn by a football player. So we did a lot of testing in the off season and got to the point where we felt confident. And again, a proving ground.
Who's wearing those cameras?
We wanted to keep it on the defensive side because everything we do is kind of geared behind the offense. So when Skycam comes in, Skycam will come in behind the offense. You've got players mic'd around the quarterback so you can hear the quarterback calls at the line of scrimmage. So we wanted to give it a defensive perspective. So we've used it on inside linebackers, safeties. This weekend we're going to have it on an edge rusher. We're going to do another middle linebacker, hoping to get the guys with the green dots because then that becomes the chess game at the line of scrimmage with the quarterback.
One thing I know really want to talk with you about is your story of getting into this. And Jess, I know, DJ's legacy is something we're very familiar with, and this is a new part of it.
Yeah, growing up a Cowboys fan, Moose was a household name, right? And so for you to build this proving ground, as you're calling the UFL, because that's what it is, and you're seeing parts of it being taken in the NFL, but also your legacy, right? And this is something that 3-time Super Bowl champion, you're coming off of that, and now you have a chance to create another legacy on top of the one you already have. What is it like for you, a former player, to be able to be part of creating these rules and these conditions for these players in this league now?
Yeah, it's been an amazing journey. Looking at the landscape of broadcasting, it's very subjective. There's some people that like me because I'm a Dallas Cowboy, and there's some people that don't like my style because I'm a Dallas Cowboy.
We know that.
And it doesn't really matter. They're just not going to give you a shot. The best compliment that I receive is from a Philadelphia fan. It's like, hey, I'm an Eagles fan, but you're fair. You actually explain you're not a homer. So those compliments mean a lot. But as you started to go through that, you saw that it was really kind of hard, to fight your way up the ladder and things like that. So I just I took a step back and looked at it and, what's another area? And that was right when the Alliance of American Football was starting, with Charlie Ebersol and Bill Polian back in 2019. So I actually got to be the general manager with Mike Riley as my head coach down in San Antonio for that year. And unfortunately, the Alliance of American Football, didn't last that first season. There was another reboot the next year into XFL 2020. And it was funny because I was pitching a lot of people from my San Antonio team to Bob Stoops, who was going to be the head coach of that time, the Dallas Renegades. And, we got through the whole phone call and he said, well, what are you doing? I said, I don't know. He goes, well, would you be interested in the director of player personnel? And I said, sure. So I went up and visited with Bob and really enjoyed our conversation. And it was really the first time I'd had an opportunity to visit with him and get to know him. And he was awesome. So he offered me an opportunity to be with the Dallas Renegades in 2020. And that one didn't make it through the season because of the pandemic. So then I took a little bit of a break. There was the spring league that was working, out of Indianapolis, out of Houston. I was not a part of that. And then the gentleman that had started the spring league, he was approached by Fox to kind of come together and then bring back the USFL. So during that time and that transition, Eric Shanks called me and said, "Hey, you've been a part of these before. You'll be able to put your eyes on some things and let us know where we are." So, I'd love to get your perspective, pick your brain a little bit. So at seminar we talked, and then nothing really happened. And then conversation started to pick up as we got into the fall, and then they brought me on end of October, going into season 1 of Legacy USFL, and that was a sprint. That was a sprint. There was many sleepless nights. We're really, really proud of what we've been able to build.
You talk about the sleepless nights, and I know we were discussing that
Yeah.
at the headquarters groundbreaking in January. I want to touch on that when we come back. All right, Daryl, so we know, you went to Syracuse, you studied economics, of course, before going into being a Super Bowl champion player. And then you fast forward to 2022. You're in Birmingham with the USFL in a Sheraton, not getting any sleep.
No.
What do you remember about those days?
The fear of not being able to pull it off. Seeing where we were in November when I really kind of came on board and just kind of put my eyes on everything, and knowing when we had to be ready to kick off. Fox was our ownership group at that time, and they were phenomenal. The ability for us to tap into a lot of the assets that Fox had, from a legal standpoint, social media standpoint. You walk into the hotel and you're like, oh, okay, this is not what I expected.
What were the most humbling details you remember about just living in that Sheraton?
It was a hotel that was coming out of the pandemic that was shuttered, so we were the first people
Back in.
that were going to be there.
Almost spooky.
And it was
sounding.
kind of, a little
Very
bit of,
eerie.
not quite Shining.
Oh my goodness! Did you see the twins down the hallway?
Yeah, it would be the black mold that was on the walls instead of the twins. Nobody on tricycles. But
Happy
there was some
spring
scary
football.
stuff.
I mean, I
yeah.
hope nothing came out of the TVs or anything like
Yeah,
that.
just say, hey, Mr. Johnson, can you come by my room and take a look at this? I don't mean to complain about anything. But, no. Let me see if we can get you another room. That's a legitimate complaint. So, the guys were fantastic. Our lockers were, we went over to the convention center across the street. We could walk to everything. We built a training room, a weight room, 8 locker rooms in this one ballroom space. We were on top of each other all the time. And you're just kind of wondering, all right, this is football. Are we going to have confrontations from time to time?
Yeah.
We got close one time when one of our teams was going into the training room and they walked right through the middle of a workout, and it's like, come on, guys, now all your alphas are up, and
Yep.
so that you just had to be careful. We had post game, we're walking back to the hotel, had to make sure we had separation.
Right,
bring guys in different entrances. And
When you
exits.
say close, I mean how close? Are you being a bouncer in the middle of this, or what?
You're walking with them, coming
From
back
point A to
across
point
from
B.
from Protective Stadium back over to the hotel. You're a part of that group that's walking back.
Being in the rut, it sounds like, in that Sheraton with the black mold on the wall and being so close to all these people all the time, what kept your faith that this was going to work out? And not even knowing where you would be today, but what kept you going that this was something you wholeheartedly believed in?
I believed in it in 2019 and the other leagues in 2020 and the XFL rendition that year. There's great coaches that believe in this. The players are amazing. When you get good people together, it's amazing what you can do. So we always knew we could provide an opportunity for players to get back into the NFL. Jeff Fisher, one of our coaches in Legacy USFL, said one of the greatest things to me one time, and it's always stuck with me. He goes, it's not about getting them to the NFL. back to the NFL. A lot of them have been there. It's getting them back to the NFL and helping them stick.
Jeff and I were at the home opener for the Renegades this weekend. We kind of were just scoping you out, and not in a creepy way at all. We were just kind of
not like The Shining.
Definitely not like those twins standing at the end of the hallway. But we were just observing how involved you are in this process, and it was so wonderful to see. I mean, we saw you checking cleats on the sideline. We walked into the wrong meeting, in the referees meeting. We saw you just dipping your toes in every single aspect of this game.
Well, in the opening week travel.
Exactly.
Because you were Houston Friday, Arlington Saturday, and then we asked you, all right, what about Sunday? And I'm going off to
another
Memphis.
Plane.
Yeah.
What's it like for you to be able to be that involved, and why is it so important for you in this position as president of football ops to do that?
I just want everybody to know that we've got their backs, that we're there if they have a question. And it's important for me to know exactly what's going on. It's one of the things where, during the course of the week, people will, hey, there's a Zoom call, but, you don't have to be on it. We're good. I'm like, send me the invitation.
Yeah.
If I tell you I don't want to be on the call, I'll tell you I don't want to be on the call.
Yeah.
But send me the invitation. Let me make that decision. Please don't make that decision for me. I need to know what's going on in all these different departments. And I'm kind of a jack of all trades, master of none, with that approach. But to me, it's more important to know a little bit of everything that's going on. So I try to do that as much as I can. And I want to be able to see people work and watch them, and, be able to, pat them on the back, and thank them. So if there's anything going wrong, I want them to feel comfortable approaching me. I've seen him before. He's all around. I've seen other people go up and talk to him. I want to be approachable. That's the only way. If you start to build that relationship and build that comfort and trust, then they're going to be able to come up to you and tell you when things aren't running right. I don't want anybody to ever feel like I'm in a position where, oh my gosh, he's unapproachable. I want you to feel very, very comfortable coming to me.
And that's for anybody.
Anybody with anything.
Player, staff.
Coach, trainer, strength coaches, video, everybody, every piece, every part of the family on the football landscape. I want you to feel comfortable coming and talking to me, especially if you have an issue.
Yeah. Because
a lot of times the issue is there because of a lack of communication. It's something it's resolved very, very easy.
All right, back with UFL President of Football Operations, Daryl Johnston. And I know, in other leagues, there are similar types of roles and titles. I know one of your good friends, Troy Vincent, has a similar type of role in the NFL. But I think one thing that's unique with the UFL, right, is that the league currently owns all 8 teams. Yeah. And so I guess for those who don't necessarily understand what this type of role usually entails, can you explain some of what makes your specific role unique when it comes to, say, hiring coaches or other elements of, it's just amazing some of the things that I've read about your involvement when it comes to even like watching tape of these games and watching it back with coaches. Just give us some of the unique elements to what your role has developed into.
I think it's probably one of the bigger adjustments that our people that have been a part of the NFL have to adjust to in the UFL. That it is owned by Fox, Redbird Capital, Dwayne Johnson, Danny Garcia, all 8 teams. So we have a set of rules that all 8 teams must follow. So Troy Vincent, he would structure things at the NFL level, and then they go down. There's 32 teams down there, but they do everything a little bit different. Everybody's doing everything the exact same way. We're a big equity group. And it has to work for everybody. So that's one of the things that we get a little bit of pushback from time to time. Well, why do we have to do it that way? And you'd never want to say because we say so. You have to be able to give them the why on certain things.
What is unique about it is that the NFL is taking note of things that are working in spring football, carrying it over into their league. And so what do you feel like the UFL is doing correctly or differently that maybe other spring football programs didn't in the past that now the NFL is taking note, even changing the rules? Jeff and I were talking about this, the Hawkeye technology, that's going to be implemented in the NFL this season. The kickoff rule that John Fossil was very adamant about coming from spring football and with his father and that history. Why do you feel like now this is kind of a springboard that the NFL is taking note in from the UFL, and how does that make you feel that these rules are important, not just to this league, but to the game of football in general.
Oh, it's a tremendous sense of pride for everybody involved. We think that the things that the NFL sometimes is reluctant to, it's kind of that because this is the way we've always done it. And there's so much change going on right now that, there's a better way to do it. I've been that curmudgeon. I've been that old, back in my day and all this different stuff. And, it's not the right approach because we can do things so much better now. And I think that's an area that, the NFL could, really, really, kind of with their fan base, just, listening to them a little bit and they're starting, to really, allow their fans to have a voice. And when they do have something good, that it's meaningful change going into that next season.
There's so much more that we could talk for hours.
Oh, yeah.
This has been amazing. DJ, thanks so much for being a part of this. We were really excited to have Fox partner with the league for this 4th and 12 podcast, which we all love the name. And you're welcome back, of course, to, match with us anytime.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
We'll have the same fit going.
We'll come back mid-season.
Yeah.
We'll do something week
Maybe
5.
we can have a little beer
look
snake
at where
going
we
on
at. Yeah, we
across
can get
the
a little
table.
beer.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah,
all right,
absolutely.
DJ, thanks for the time.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
We want to thank Daryl for coming on the 4th and 12 podcast again. He was so phenomenal. Jeff, what stood out to you the most about what Daryl said? There was a lot.
I loved the Sheraton story from Birmingham with the Shining comparison. Yeah. It was so awesome to hear what sort of humbling steps a legend like Daryl Johnston has been willing to take to try and make spring football stick. What about you?
Absolutely. I really loved his honesty and the transparency that seems to be the running topic of this league. Just dive into Daryl Johnston, everything he is, how involved he is, hearing his story and just kind of his healthy leadership style, how it's implementing in the UFL. You love to see it. You love to see a guy like that be successful. And so we're going to continue to see what this season holds.
That's right. This is just the opener. We're working out the kinks here on 4th and 12. We're going for it. And we hope that everybody will continue to stay locked in with us.
Please do. You can listen wherever you get your podcast. We love that. Or
Fox Local, says the Fox guy.
That. Yeah, I had to give you that lead up.
That's
for
right.
Sure.
But now we've explained to people what 4th and 12 is.
Yep.
And hopefully they'll be back.
I expect to see all of you back, and I expect to hear y'all's favorite Taylor Swift song.
And don't forget, no onside kicks.
Keeping it 4th and 12. See you next week.